welcome back to Monster Party. This is where monster fans like us talk about monster things, and we're having a great time as we're all drinking, because that's what makes it a real party, right? Hey, that's all toast.
Thank you.
Toast.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
Well said.
Now I want to tell all the viewers out there, today, yes, we have a theme tonight, and it's classic Planet of the Apes. One of the greatest series of all time. And by the way, you want to play a little game at home? Every time, if you're drinking with us, every time you hear us say the word apes, I want you to give yourself take a little shot there. Okay, so.
Oh, so good. Say ape again.
Planet of the Apes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, I want to tell you, Planet of the Apes has got to be, I tell you, one of the greatest science fiction series of all time, you know, and I gotta tell you, the first time, when the first film came out back in 1968, Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston.
Saw it in the theater.
Did you see it in the theater?
Yes.
What, were you 2?
I was 4 years old.
Oh my God, no.
And it was like a fever dream.
It was,
what the hell?
Right. Did you know, it was so terrifying, my parents were, well, we're not taking you to see that. I mean, I didn't see it years later.
I think Escape from the Planet was the first one I saw in the theater. But,
yeah, my mom's a big sci-fi fan, so I got dragged to that thing.
That's pretty good.
Now, I'm sure like many of you already out there know, I mean, Planet of the Apes would never have been made if it wasn't for the direct involvement of Charlton Heston. It was Charlton Heston who was really behind it. And at that time, back in 1968, Charlton Heston was a huge star. And I mean, he was like the Brad Pitt or Mel Gibson. Well, maybe not Mel Gibson, but the Brad Pitt of his day. Tom Cruise. But let's say that film. I mean, it was Matt. I think you guys would agree with me. It was.
I agree with you.
It was. I mean, that
I'm
was
tired
really.
of us fighting.
No, it was way ahead of its time.
Yes, absolutely. And with the screenplay by Rod Serling.
As one of the screenwriters.
One of the screenwriters. But it very much, the end of that movie with the Statue of Liberty is very much a classic, like Twilight Zone almost moment.
Right.
The
Which
twist,
was
the weird
not
twist.
in the original Peerable novel.
That's
not
right.
That way either.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, we haven't spoiled the ending for anybody.
If you haven't seen,
if you
Planet
know what,
original
you should
Planet
stop
by
right
now.
now. Stop watching this.
Yes.
Go out, rent it, or buy it, and watch it,
wait.
then come back.
Wait a minute.
Well, go ahead and
That's
rent all
crazy
5
talk.
movies.
Do not stop watching this. Because it will be
you're
around
gonna be so
forever.
entertained.
This is important. Okay?
Well, okay, so
I just
go
wanted
ahead.
to say too that before that movie came out, when they got Heston involved with 20th Century Fox, it was a huge gamble because the idea of at that time apes makeup and all that was nobody knew how that was going to work, and they did a whole test.
They did the tests with
Edward
G.
G.
Robinson.
was originally playing was originally in the role of Dr. Zaius, and James Brolin I think was playing Cornelius in the test, and I think Linda Harrison was Zira.
That's right.
And they just had no idea how it was all going to work, and John Chambers, of course, groundbreaking
makeup,
which to me is strange. But like even today, I think that makeup holds up really well. It's like there's something about that, even though it may not be the most advanced prosthetics compared to now, there's something really aesthetically pleasing about it.
That's right.
It's like you just really, it just works. It
still
works.
Yeah, and they always talk about, like, I'm sure we've all seen there's a great documentary called Behind the Planet of the Apes, where they talk about how they had to over-enunciate everything to get any kind of sort of facial expression to come out through that makeup.
Right.
And that's what really works. You really do get a human quality out of that makeup. And it's credible. And even to the point where that when they were making the movie, how the actors in the film kind of really took on the sort of social structure of ape society, where
chimpanzees,
and orangutans and gorillas, and when they would go to lunch, all the orangutans would hang with the orangutans, chimpanzees with the gorillas, or I mean, if they had a couple drinks in them, then maybe they would crossbreed.
So today's theme is Planet of the Apes. If you just joined us, I'm Larry Strothe.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Matt Weinhold.
I'm James Gonis.
And again, welcome to Monster Party. But again,
Special Apes
Special Apes edition.
We're going ape.
Right? Hey, ape! Okay, there we go. All right.
I think I'm going to say one thing about the movie franchise is that it's one of the most creative and healthy franchises, because when you're talking about sequels to movies, you know, the first one's a great classic film in general, and even though maybe the sequels varied in quality, I think those 5 films were each one was really going in a unique and different direction.
Yeah.
Each one.
Yeah.
I mean, from Planet of the Apes to Beneath to Escape to Conquest to Battle, they were all had their own kind of style and characteristics to them. You know, they weren't just like a retread of the first one. They never
and
did
even
that.
Battle, which everyone sort of cites as like the weakest one,
Well,
is still I would argue that film is better than, say, Jedi when it comes to the Star Wars series.
Well,
in keeping with the mythology of the whole series.
Right.
Sure.
They were always stretching and expanding upon the mythology and doing kind of unique things to it. And even though they may have played fast and loose a little bit with like some of the timeline origin, because there's entire books written about the apes' timelines, you know, of how they.
Sure.
But it's so fast.
And we've read
so
every
fun.
one.
But they're just really
I have
fun.
nothing in my life.
now, before you know, the Jedi fans get all upset at Matt. I mean, I know that there's a little room, we could debate about that, but still, I think everyone would
No,
admit.
we can't debate
No,
on
we
it.
can debate
That is the
that.
God's honest truth.
No. I know. I don't want to get
Battle-
anyone upset. I mean, look, are we going to go over like Battle for the Planet of the Apes versus Return of the Jedi?
No.
Is that what we're going to do?
I mean,
no.
can, but-
Today, it's all
Later.
about later. I'll talk to you later. It's all about Planet of the Apes.
Just the fact that there were 5 films, you know, that each sequel did go in each individual direction, as you said, and that at that time period when there were no franchises like that.
Not really, right?
And you had this whole time continuum that could play with your head.
Yeah.
That
and
was,
references to the other characters, and like, you know, it's just kind of really, especially for a kid growing up watching these things.
I would argue that, like, again, a lot of people cite Battle as the worst one, which I know the cheesy elements of that movie.
The budget was probably the
Think
smallest.
of how many apes you have to cut someplace, Matt. Imagine you're trying to put together this film and you have like hundreds and hundreds of people all in ape mass. I mean, it's going to be, you know, trying to save money somehow. Granted, that's it. Effects wise.
To me, like the moment in that series where it gets the most wonky-ish is Escape, where now the apes from the future have come back to our time, and the reasoning is these apes who, before Taylor arrived on the planet, they were astounded at a paper airplane, have now dredged a spaceship from a lake.
Okay, now I'm gonna go out right here. Okay,
and
see,
worked
now
it
what Matt's talking about, if you guys remember the film, okay,
You know what I'm talking
about. There is a group of apes, you know, that are totally
Who are
in this-
astrophysicists?
No.
Rocket propulsion experts.
They're all into their
Milo's a
religion.
very smart scientist.
And that's the part that we don't know about.
Don't
What
touch
we
me.
don't know, we don't know what Milo did. Milo could have gone out to the Forbidden Zone on his own, found that ship, and said, "Hey,
Where's the lost story of Milo?
That's what we want to
science
see.
fiction author
That's-
needs to write like a novel
There you go.
about that
Yeah.
missing chapter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
About
Right.
exactly how they
Once you
You
get
know what
past
though? I
that,
think
though,
there
that's
is
what
a
we want.
graphic novel, I think, somewhere that's
Yes.
like a
Yeah.
novel that somebody wrote
We
about
s-
that.
Didn't we see something like that?
We
in
saw a
Comic-Con?
painting at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
with
Years
apes
ago.
dragging the ship
Oh, really?
out of
I didn't see
yeah,
that.
with
Wow.
like chains.
We were
But
waiting.
once you get past that very big jump, though, I love the idea.
I'm told, you know, Matt, I got by that
But
jump.
I love the
totally
idea
got it.
how Escape turns it around, where now
Yeah.
the apes are the aliens in the human world.
Look,
which is
right.
a great
I
way
looked
to
at a paper
turn it around.
airplane and I went, I know how to fix a spaceship, right?
Right.
Well, and of course, one of the greatest things about Planet of the Apes is it also produced. I mean, that first film I don't think was meant to be a kids' film, or the second one, or
Right.
even the third.
The second one definitely not.
But I gotta tell you, because there's some really harsh things in that.
Second one.
But I gotta tell you, Mego put out some of the greatest toys, the Planet of the Apes toys, back in the early 70s.
There was not
I
much
lived for those figures.
I mean, I can't tell you how many apes figures I had. I mean, and I had the actual tree house. I mean, we took the apes and we played with them in the tree house. We took them on top of the roof and stuffed them with pine needles and lit them on
remember, like,
fire
at
and
the
threw.
time-
And it was awesome.
And at the
those
time,
were some
there
of the
was not-
best. Those were some of the
Yeah.
best.
I
toys.
conned my own grandfather into buying me the gorilla Mego figure because I made a horse for it and made a little saddle. And boy, it'd be really great if a Planet of the Apes figure from Mego would be on this horse, right? And I got it.
Okay, now which one? Was it the soldier ape?
No,
Gorilla.
First series.
First one was
first
series. Okay.
Right.
So
the reason why we cherished the Mego figures so much is because there was not a lot of apes merchandise.
No.
You know, they when the TV series came out, they started putting out Mego characters of the TV series characters, but I mean, just in general, even with the franchise, movie franchise, there wasn't a lot of apes.
No, the idea that anyone would even make Planet of the Apes figures was incredible.
And there weren't a lot of action figures made at that period that were that close to the actual likeness of the makeup of those characters. Which at that point seemed pretty revolutionary. It's like, wow, this really looks like Cornelius. This really looks like Zero. The outfits, the fabric.
Yeah, the thing that I was really disappointed about though was the astronaut. I mean, I love Charlton Heston. I love Charlton Heston. He was awesome. He was. I mean, he was the best. And no, they didn't have the rights. So what they do, they made a generic astronaut, which actually looks like it was Action Jackson. Yes, it was, and
what we wanted was a guy with a little bit of a belly button.
What are you talking about? We didn't have belly. For a guy of his age and his stature, he was in great shape.
Although I was always upset that they never put out like some of the other characters. Like they never put out a mutant character from beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Or a Nova. Right. I mean, let's face it, guys. I mean, I gotta tell you, let's Linda Harrison toast. I have to tell you.
Oh my God, that got me through my puberty. Holy shit!
I have to tell you, Linda Harrison as Nova, she was absolutely so stunning, so beautiful. Doesn't even say a word in the first film.
Imagine finding a feral kitten that you wanted to have sex with.
That's Nova, right?
That's Nova.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was, but they never put out.
And it was her.
I'm just having a moment here. And you know, even to this day, you know, I've seen her at conventions and stuff, and she still looks lovely to this day. So again,
she got a little smoke.
Linda Harrison, we love you. Yeah, you know, we'd love to have you on the show. By the way,
I'm sure she's going to be coming by.
I want her to just talk to me in that kind of smoker's voice that she has, like a throaty kind of.
You know, I don't want her to say anything to me. I just want her to come in and just wear that outfit. That's what I would.
Speaking would destroy the complete illusion.
That's true.
I think.
Yes,
but I also think the casts of all those films are so great because all those great 70s actors. We had James Franciscus in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. James Gregory playing General Urko.
Iconic.
Maurice Evans as Dr. Zayas.
Yeah, one of the great villain actors, Eric Raiden, who was so great as Dr. Hessline in Escape from the Planet.
That's right, always great,
just Bradford Dillman.
I
mean, just Natalie Trundy, who I think was in every ape movie.
She's in almost every ape movie, I think.
Or she played a human, a mutant, and an ape.
Yeah.
Definitely from 2 on, right?
Yeah, well, she played a human in Escape.
She's a mutant in Beneath.
Right.
She's a human in Escape.
And she's an ape in Battle.
Yes.
And
in Conquest. And in Conquest.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Victor Buono.
Yes.
But you know, we're probably ignoring 2 of the greatest. You know, Roddy McDowall. You know,
I'm not familiar.
Roddy.
The main one. Yeah.
And Kim Hunter.
But now, can we just talk for a second about
both of those? No, I just want to say Cornelius and Zira, those 2 actors, phenomenal. I can't imagine anyone else playing those 2 roles. Although Roddy McDowall was not in Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Right.
Although the
actor he just wasn't available. He was doing other films.
I don't think he was available.
I don't think he was available. But the funny thing is, if you listen to the actor's voice, it's almost like he's doing. The director goes, "Hey, do your best Roddy McDowall impersonation."
He does a good one.
He does.
Who was that name? Don.
Johnson. You would think we would know everything, but we don't.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm sure some of you out there know, and I'm sure some of you are out there going, "Oh, I got the answer, you moron." So all I want to say
Ronald McDoyle.
Apes.
His name.
Apes.
Oh boy. Here we go. I'm going to the forbidden zone.
What were you going to say about the
Well, because I remember seeing that. I think I saw that film for the first time on television.
I think so.
And I remember watching that, and it was the big premiere. You know, oh my God, it's actually playing.
CBS.
Yeah, CBS. Yes. And I'm watching it, and that movie is crazy.
It's twisted.
It is.
It's twisted. There's a lot of crazy. There's anti-war stuff in it.
Yes.
There's
suicide.
That's
suicide.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
There's the whole Forbidden Zone thing.
There's a group of people who religiously worship an atomic bomb.
Right. They worship an atomic bomb.
And the conclusion, spoiler, the planet.
That's it.
Earth is
And that's what I'm talking
everybody
about.
dies.
And I watched that movie, and I'm watching it, and then there's that voiceover at the end of it.
Yeah.
Now the
Earth is now dead.
Is now dead.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no music.
yeah, I'm like 7,
And
I'm like,
it's quiet, and then just the
yeah.
credits roll.
And
There's
yeah,
no-
I'm 7 years old. I'm like,
You had just watched one of the heroes, James from Franciscus, like slammed against the wall
And
and
Heston,
shot.
and Heston.
I like turned to my mom like, so this isn't like H.R. Puffin stuff, right? They're not.
I mean,
The whole Earth is dead.
Nobody
It's
gets
all
beat
gone.
up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heston and Franciscus get killed.
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's no music, and there's a narration. It's Paul Frees.
It's pretty
I think.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. It's Paul Frees.
But for whatever flaws that film has, I give it a lot of credit for like that is
just
a really
going down
ballsy
that,
ending.
Yeah, just going in that
Nihilistic.
direction.
Yeah.
Nihilistic.
2 episodes in a row.
Oh my god.
Also, I mean, you think about it too. Do you think at the time that was the first sequel? So were they considering doing another one after that? Because what do you do after that one?
No, Shawn. My understanding
right,
was
yeah.
that was it. That was going to
So
be
that's
it.
one of the reasons
But it
why
was
they had to
so
think up something pretty
exactly,
extreme to do
Shawn.
another
It was
one.
so successful.
It was the end of the world.
that they
right,
went.
what
You
do
know, okay, how do we write ourselves
Right,
back
right.
into this? You know,
But by the
and-
time-
That's why you get the some apes dragged
Yeah.
a spaceship
You
out of
know,
the
see,
lake.
that's the funny thing. He argues that it's so unlikely. You know, I disagree. These are
Okay.
sharp, inquisitive apes. And you know what, Matt? What he's saying is that there would be apes that everyone follows this one way of life. And you know what? That's not true. We see in Cornelius. No, Matt. We see that in Cornelius and Zira. They're trying to do these experiments. They want to know. They're asking questions.
They have a secret rocket propulsion lab behind
Let's
their
just say
primitive
they got
hut
three
that they
little
live
kids.
in.
what you're
Instruments,
saying,
they got it right.
saying is you're saying that those apes like Milo, Dr. Milo, doesn't have the intellectual know-how to actually look at stuff and mess around with it and try and figure out
That's
how
exactly
it works.
what he's saying.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I disagree.
I can't
think,
repair my toaster.
well, you're just not as sharp and
As
as
Dr.
intelligent
Milo.
as Dr.
Dr.
Milo.
Milo is
Now, talking about the sequel mentality, though, obviously by the time the end of Escape from the Planet of the Apes ends, they were thinking sequels because Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes ends with the little baby. You know that's going to become Caesar. So
yeah, which leads us into probably my second favorite of that entire
Conquest of Planet of the
Conquest.
Apes is a great film.
And the fact that they released that finally, the unedited
the
version,
director's
the
cut of
the
original
version.
unedited version, which if you had watched Conquest of the Planet of the Apes before this,
the ending gets
5 years.
No,
Yeah.
it's a good ending. It's a good ending, but the ending could have been much more different.
Well, but the fact is that even when I saw it in the theater and I loved it, they have this moment where at the end, Caesar he's got all the he's subjugated all the humans and he's got his army of apes.
And he has this crazy change of heart.
Yeah, and he's about to have everybody pretty much killed. Suddenly he has a change of heart. He goes, "We must put down our weapons and go scurry off into the forest."
No.
And
he said yes. Scurry out to the
we're
forest.
gonna just hide out and you know, when you guys kill each other off, then we might come out again and then take over stuff.
Which was, I think, that the studio wanted that kind of softened ending, correct?
Because what I heard was that in a lot of the test screenings, that like people went crazy with the ultra violent ending,
Right.
because it was during a kind of volatile time in our
history.
It was
Sure.
very much.
and so that they had to do this change. But when you see the original version now, which you can get whenever you get any of the Blu-ray versions, it's now the original version, and that's kind of like I think the official version now.
Yeah,
right?
but you see, I do want to say one thing before we say, "Oh, it was great this way," and gee, I'm not so sure about this original ending. You have to remember that Caesar was raised, you know, in the circus, you know, by people, you know, and he loved by Armando, and he loved Armando. So this whole thing, it's like after he leaves Armando, yes, he has to deal with the mean humans. So I do see that how you can be so upset, he can be so angry, and he wants to cause all this destruction. Then he pulls back, says, "Okay, now look, we've managed to like take over the planet. Let's put our weapons down," because you know he did have love in his heart, because
That's true.
He was raised by a very loving human. So I don't want to go as far as say, well, you know, they softened it up because you know.
But I think isn't it more ballsy and more interesting to have him become a true revolutionary leader who goes, "This is what we have to do to get what we want."
If you look at you know beneath the Planet of the Apes, you have this really crazy thing where the planet explodes. Okay. Right. So sure, for conquest, yeah, it would be really ballsy if he does this really thing. And now I want you to tear apart every human from limb to limb. Yes, I get it.
Well,
sure.
I think also like the end of Conquest, that ending, the more violent ending of Conquest, then sets up, you know, going back to the first movie. I mean, by that you think, because Battle for the Planet of the Apes kind of becomes really what.
Right.
It's kind of.
It's sort of a prequel, right?
Full circle a little bit. Right. Know? So I think that was kind of an interesting way to do it, you know, because in Battle, Caesar is represented as a very humane, as a very humane leader. The whole ape.
I think
apes shall never kill apes.
But I think it still works with the violent revolution. Is that's what revolutions are? They're very violent, and you have to do that. And then once you get what you want, then you can be the benevolent leader. But even in battle, when he is the benevolent leader, still humans are second class.
But it's in Battle where it's within the ape society that the violence is starting to break it apart. Then because it's Aldo who, in other words,
yes.
Mutants, you could argue, are also the human class, and they're another aspect.
Well, that's true.
Well, that's why these movies are so great, though, because the filmmakers actually dealt with all of this stuff within the framework of the movie. You know, I mean, they didn't go for any sort of obvious direction or obvious answer.
Right.
You know, they actually structured it in a way that would make you think about, you know, all of these different like sort of sub-elements.
Right.
While they were, you know, sort of thinking back in time, okay, well, this is a prequel to Planet of the Apes, so we have to, you know, construct how it might lead to the first movie, and still do it in a satisfying way, where Caesar would be somehow sympathetic, and yet you still know that, okay, humans are going to end up being subjugated.
Well,
and would anyone would anyone give that kind of care these days?
No, no.
I don't think so. No.
And that's what makes the series so freaking great.
Yeah, it really
to
is.
this day.
I mean, like the fact you can still talk about it and kind of debate it a lot, I think, is, you know, like I said, each one stands pretty well on its own. I mean, they're all very different, but they all kind of connect too. You know, it's really cool.
And what is so amazing too is these films were so successful. It's like, well, what's the next category? Well, what's the next area to overtake? Well, let's go to television now.
Yeah.
So then they do the Planet of the Apes TV series. But you know what, guys? I mean, I watched every episode, but it never really clicked for me.
But as a kid, I watched it and loved it because it was Planet of the Apes. You know, and that show
Shawn,
was kind of an alternate universe in a way. It was not really. I can't remember how much.
It was It was sort of in the battle world.
Yeah, it was in the battle.
But it was not the same characters.
Yeah.
Well, no, there was Galen,
but it still had Roddy McDowell.
Yeah,
it did.
And the one thing that got me about, like, there were a handful of episodes that were like, okay, now you got it. There's the one where Urko is he's trapped in the BART station
with James Naughton. And
yes, right. Yeah. And that's a great one. He sees a poster with a gorilla.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
That's a really great one.
That is a great one.
And then, but then there were other ones where, like, you know, Urko, you know, he takes over there's like a hang gliding contest and
or a horse race.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean,
there was a lot of was this? Did this happen to be like a Banachek episode where you just changed all the names?
You know what it was Starsky and Hutch on the Planet of the Apes, because those two guys, those two actors,
very much so. Yes.
Ron Harper
It was a
and
hit show at the time, and even then, when I was maybe,
That's
I don't know,
true.
10 years old or
Right.
something, 9, even then I thought, these guys look a lot like Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, but I tell you though, as a kid, that was like mid-70s, Friday nights, because he had that. I think maybe that was on at maybe 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock, and it turned to CBS. It was Night Stalker. I mean, it was the best
that's
Friday
right.
night
That
ever,
was-
so-
Yeah,
was-
and they're
so-
they're good. They're very likable. They're good actors.
Yeah, it's still. How about the cartoon series? You ever watch?
Oh,
Return
see
to the Planet
now,
of the
okay,
Apes?
now we're going even that further step. Okay,
A very cheap animated.
See,
Saturday
Shawn,
morning
that's
show.
what bugged me about it. It seemed like it was so limited. The animation was so limited,
Very,
and that was
very
like
limited.
drove me nuts.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so I
what was
couldn't really get into it.
kind of cool about it though is
There was
that they
some cool
kind of
things.
go back to the original Pierre Boulle
A little bit, yeah.
concept of Planet of the Apes, where the apes have trucks and cars.
Yes,
and
that's true.
planes
They had
and-
helicopters,
Yeah.
and it did feature the African American actor who was in battle, McDonald's brother, Austin Stoker.
Yeah.
Austin Stoker did the voice of one of the characters. So
Yeah,
it
that's
still
great.
had some little tenuous connections,
Now,
but
how many episodes did they do
it
of
was
the
only
cartoon?
one season.
It was
so
only one
like maybe-
season, yeah.
And there was
I've got an animation cell of that.
Really?
Somewhere.
It was probably one of those moments where they realized, okay, you know what? I think we've milked this for, as far as we could go. We did the 5 movies. We did a TV series.
Yeah,
we
that's
did the
pretty much it,
cartoon.
yeah.
And
What
you
if we
know-
do a musical?
You know what?
There should be a
Actually,
musical.
well, the funny thing is, in the episode of Simpsons, they
That's
do
true.
show a Planet of
Yeah,
the Apes.
but that should be a musical.
You know
is
what?
I'm saying.
You know what we should do is we should contact Trey Parker and the guys who
They've
did
made
that.
enough money.
No, I think they would love to do a Planet of the Apes musical.
Yes, they would.
Okay, so
So
guys,
now-
if you're watching us, I think you should. That's the next thing you should tackle. Planet of the Apes musical. That's what you should do. Apes. Okay, another.
No, pretend you've
So-
never seen this. We're going to do it.
But I go ahead.
I was going to say, so then Apes kind of after the cartoon, after the TV series, there was kind of a really, the franchise really was at rest for a while, until Burton made his version, right?
And I was so,
I mean, which-
Oh, God.
I was
I think
so
universally, which
I
was
was-
unfortunate because it really was.
I was so enthusiastic. I was so excited. I wanted to like that movie. And I heard Rick Baker, who's, amazing, talented, Academy Award winning makeup artist. It was his dream to always
The
do
makeup was great.
Yeah, well, with an exception. It was always his dream to do, a Planet of the Apes type film. So when I heard that it's this Tim Burton and Rick Baker, oh my God, this is going to be so cool. And I went in there wanting to love it. And
I'm with you. You know what?
I
When
was
I watched that
so-
movie, it was the type of thing where you go, I should like this. I know I'm gonna like it, and then it's not good, and you go like, oh, that was great. No, oh,
yeah,
no.
yeah, it really just.
Oh, that's great. The guys are running through the trees and. No.
And how come the humans look so great like models, and no
But also, I
one's
thought
dirty
Ape
and-
City looked like a Universal Studios set. Like it didn't look like. I mean, you go
But,
back to the original
what was
movie.
the exception though? You thought with the ape makeup?
Well, here's the thing that really bugged me, and I heard or read these stories about. So Rick Baker was trying to get the Helen Bonham Carter makeup right, and the story that I heard was Tim Burton. I know he had this big thing for Zero from the classic films, and he wanted the Helen Bonham character to look as much human as possible, still trying to be an ape. And so it's like all the other apes look like apes except for her. She looks like this kind of combination between human and ape. And the other thing too is this is Rick Baker we're talking about, Academy Award winning makeup guy, okay? So he's doing the hair pieces or the makeup and the hair for all the apes, but for some reason Tim Burton didn't like the way the Helen Bonham Carter's hair looked like. So they bring in some hairstylist from France to fix her hair. Are you kidding me?
The French.
She's a freaking ape, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And so, and I just thought, God, it's just so ridiculous. And then what? The chimpanzee, the character, the one we think of the chimpanzees as being, the good and the intellectual.
Yeah.
And here you have, he's like this really mean dude. And
I think despite the big budget though, and despite even Rick Baker's makeup, there's still something about.
Yeah,
like I
that's
said, the original movie, the wardrobe design of how they differentiated the chimpanzees and the orangutan and the makeup. I mean, maybe I guess it is simpler, but it just stands out as more memorable to me. Like,
Well, but see, that movie, I remember watching that movie and going, there's no iconic moment.
Right,
There's so many iconic moments in the original Planet of the Apes with the you cut out his brain, you believe baboon.
Sure, right. Seeing the stuffed astronauts in the museum.
Statue of Liberty. But a ham-fisted way of trying to
do that.
carbon copy that and
but
not accomplish it.
It's a really tough act to follow.
Well, and I understand.
But they reduced it to a simple summer action movie. That's really what it was.
And I understand. Tim Burton said he's not.
All they set out to do.
He's not what he's good at.
No. What he said is he's not trying to retell the story. It's a reimagined. I hate that. It's like it's a reimagined. Take these. This concept. No,
but if you're gonna reimagine it. Don't do a half-ass version of it. Don't do a shitty version of it. Right. Reimagine it in a good way.
Right.
Which leads us to Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Which I really like.
Now,
Lovely.
Yes.
Lovely.
Total surprise. I was not. I didn't know really what I was expecting when I saw that, but
kind of a love letter to
it really was.
Fans.
Yeah.
Rise was a really pleasant surprise where they also kind of kept it to a nice, manageable, kind of smaller story. And really, in some ways, it was kind of like a reworking of Conquest. In some ways.
Absolutely.
Like a beginning,
sure.
The spark of Conquest.
Yeah.
Sort of a remake of Conquest in a way.
And there are some things in that movie that you kind of go, well, like the minute an ape is seen in a neighborhood, animal control comes and takes that ape away.
Yeah, but still.
Right. But fine. But it's okay. Yeah. I will let that go.
I had a lot of problems with the logic in the movie.
Right.
I didn't think that James Franco and the things that he did in the movie made him that much more sympathetic than, let's say, the villain who meets a horrible death, who is this corporate, power player. And I think the mistakes James Franco made were actually worse than the decisions that the corporate CEO made, which were, logical for a corporate CEO to make. I didn't think he deserved that horrible a fate. But
yeah, the idea that he allows this sort of contagion to be let loose throughout the world.
Criminal.
Yeah. There is something to be said for that.
Right.
But to give credit to that movie is that the fact that despite all those things that we all agree on, that it does work.
And the thing is, and the one thing that, speaking of working, the one thing early on before I saw the movie that I was most worried about was the CGI and all the motion captures. I was like, if that isn't done right, it's not going to work. And it's probably, to date, I think, the best realization of a CGI character with Andy Serkis.
I would argue a little bit in the beginning with that there's some stuff that is that's clearly CGI.
When it's a baby ape more?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and him jumping around the room and all that. But I look at that as I would a Ray Harryhausen movie.
Yeah.
Where
you go with
Ray Harryhausen movie, you look at it and you go, oh, this is the part where it's now stop motion animation.
Right.
And that's where I got with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. As long as it works and it's evoking some sort of emotional response from you.
Right.
From that character,
and having seen the movie, I do understand that it had to be CGI. It wasn't they just did CGI just to do CGI. It wouldn't have worked having just a guy.
And I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I'm hoping. If they can keep up that, they can do more. That was a great jump start for the franchise again. And if they can do a lot now with that franchise.
I do. I can't wait. I hope that the sequel is now The War.
Yeah.
Wow,
right.
can you imagine?
Yeah. It'd be great. That was really, like I said, the last thing I expected was kind of a great apes, another great apes film. After the disappointment of Burton's film, why bother doing this again? And they did a great job. Yeah. So.
Speaking of the Go Ape. I remember that. That's the funny thing. Back in the 70s. Not to jump around, but what was so cool. For me, I wasn't as fortunate as Matt was to have my parents take me to see it right when it came out. I had to wait a number of years when they actually had. They showed all 5 ape films, one after the other at certain movie theaters. And it was the whole campaign
Did you go to that?
Yes, I did. And I remember my parents dropped us off, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch this for 8 hours, and it was
awesome.
It was probably one of the greatest moments of my life.
My mom, because I asked her, I said, and this was at the point where I had not seen Battle, and so I said, they're doing this thing, and Mom, can you take me? And my mom is a big science fiction fan, and so she It's like, yeah, and she, had like a thermos of coffee. went to the El Rey Theater in San Francisco, and we watched all these movies. And I remember about at the end of Conquest, she went, have you seen enough now? Are you ready?
Are you
I'm like, no, this is the one I've been waiting for. Okay. But she was great, and
she stayed.
She stayed.
That's even better than the last one.
She was great. We saw the whole thing, and that's love.
That's a great mom.
That is a great mom.
Right there. That is a great mom.
That's someone who really.
To moms. That's right. To moms.
To nerd moms.
And to Planet of the Apes. Hey, thank you again for joining us on this amazing show.
Thank you.
No, Monster Party.
Thank you.
You'll never tune in again because you never know what we're going to be talking about. Again, cheers and apes.
Whoa.